Hello, I am Senior Member Joseph Penn with the 186th Composite Squadron and their Flight Simulation Program. In this tutorial will be showing how to intercept a radial in the Cessna 172. While some radio stacks may be different, generally speaking, you have two main components that involve the VOR navigation system and navigation radios. You can see on the right hand side the nav1 OBS and the nav2 OBS. For today's flight we'll just be using the nav1 OBS. You can see it is set to the navigation setting instead of the GPS setting. On the radio stack, in the navigation 1 frequency, or VOR lock 1, you see Putnam as its VOR radio frequency put in of 117.4. Once this is done, you will see an identifier PUT picked up by the unit in most cases, along with a radial and distance on Garmin units. Some regular units that are just plain radios and plain DME will not show this, but rather a distance and speed, and sometimes the identification of the station. What we'll be doing today is doing what is the first step of the private pilot rating check ride for your private pilot wings, which is intercepting radial 252 out of Putnam towards Hartford. However, we will be not completing the approach into Hartford in this tutorial. That will be saved for a later video on VOR alpha approaches. We'll take off from runway 31 in Danielson and intercept the radial from the Putnam VOR. The OBS is made of the nav1 OBS in this form is made of two main components, a lateral component and a vertical component. The lateral component shows a line showing roughly the orientation of the VOR radial that you selected via the OBS knob, which in this case is 252, so 24, 245, 250, 251, 2. By moving this 1 degree, you can change the individual radial. As has been described in ground school, VORs have 360 options that you can use to find a direction and fly in it. What we are going to do is fly up and intercept the radial. The lateral portion will be centered when on the radial in the correct direction. This currently shows that the radial is to the right of the aircraft. The other side would show a radial to the left, and the bottom is the to from indicator. You're currently flying in a direction that will be away from the Putnam VOR on the 210 radial, so the from indication should be shown. If you're flying towards a VOR, a to indication will be shown. Take off now using flaps 1 on this runway, and then take the heading bug to keep us on a specific heading of 310, the runway heading, to the radial. The heading bug is usually set on most autopilots using a physical bug that, when turned, will change the position of the orange bug on the horizontal situation indicator. We'll be using nav1 navigation hold to hold onto the radial, and heading hold to hold the heading, demonstrating a basic autopilot. Let's take off. Use the parking brake if you have not already, or if you've taxied on the runway, this step isn't necessary. And we'll add throttle and counteract the P factor using right rudder. Go to full power. Begin the takeoff roll. Airspeed is live. We're going to take off. Back. Begin the climb out. So you're clear of all obstacles and terrain. We'll continue our climb to 4,000 feet. But we'll turn on our autopilot to stay in the heading of 310. The distance marker will continue to go up as we fly away from the radial. Sorry, fly away from the Putnam VOR. The readout here, 218, shows your current radial from the aircraft's position to the VOR. This is not the selected radial. See, due to some denser air, we are climbing very quickly. We're going to change that a little bit by using some nose down trim. Oh, never mind. We accidentally deactivated our autopilot, so we're not going to keep doing that. Rather, this airplane can do that. Continue to watch the OBS on the top right. No, alright, we're a little too aggressive to climb. We're going to stop. Incorrect. Do about 700 V a minute in vertical speed just to keep it stable for this demonstration. As you get closer to the Zio radial, you'll actually see 252 appear here when we're on the radial. As you get closer, the lateral indicator, that line on the right, will start moving towards the center. And we're going to reset our altimeter to the nearest airfield, IJD 29904. You already have known this from ground school. Alright, 29er, 799er, 1, 2, 3, 4. 29er 4. You can see the OBS moving from the right as we continue to get closer to the radial. As this occurs, we're going to put it on nav hold. And the aircraft will bring us in onto the radial. Aircraft's turning slightly to the right in order to just bring us in a little bit closer and get us there quicker to the desired radial. That's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Almost to 4,000 feet. And there we go. 4,000 feet. Bring the power back a bit. A little more acceptable for cruise, kind of 2,300 RPM. There we go. You may be asking, Senior Member Fred, what happens if we don't want that radial? What if we want to go try a different radial or track another one out? Well, I'll be showing you how to do that when we get to Hartford. Now we'll take a look and see how much time it's going to be until we get there, though. First, though, see if we need to make a jump cut. Ah, that's not what it's supposed to be doing. So in that case, we're going to turn off the navigation portion of the autopilot. And we're going to do this by hand. Normally the autopilot will obey much better than this, but sometimes it can be a bit finicky. Radials to our left. So we'll start turning left. So we'll actually use our heading bug, turning it a bunch, to bring us back towards the radial. Yep. Aircraft should now be bringing itself towards the radial. And hopefully it turns slightly to the right in a second. Still a little bit off to the right. Now it's showing us pretty much on the radial. Odds or any errors are coming from wind rather than being on the wrong radial. You'll be able to see as we get closer to what we want. You can actually see Hartford right ahead of us, so we're actually going right from Putnam to Hartford on the map. We will do is piece together a radial to fly out of Hartford. Towards, oh, that's not the right tool. It's not right either. Towards Robertson Field. which will come out to 2905. What we'll do is we'll show you how to switch VORs and fly the 2905 radial out of Hartford. And I'll cut back to you when we get there. Alright, we're a bit further out into the flight, and now we're back. As you can see, we are nearing the Hartford VOR. So what we need to do is change the VOR frequency to Hartford, but also maintain the same radial, as we know that the heading of the radial of 252 is the line between the Putnam and Hartford VORs. So let's put that in now using our radio, and that'll come out to 114.9. 2, 3, 4, and on the right hand side using the small nom, 9 or 0. And you will flip it, and there you can see it. It's figured out where we are. Freaked out a little bit for a second, but it now knows what to do. And it's figured out where the Hartford VOR is, how to get us to where we need to be. Which is a 252 radial to Hartford. Rather, the 242 outbound radial to Hartford. And as you've seen, as the Hartford VOR is ahead of us, you have a 2 indication on the OBS. The next radial to take us towards Robertson is 2905. And we'll be following that radial next. .295 is a small notch just to the left of the 300 radial. As we'll now go 27, 28, 29er, 29er, 5. Another feature of VOR stations, if you put on the nav1 audio, is that they send a Morse code signal out relaying what their identifier is. Hear it there. On many charts, especially the en route low and en route high charts, you'll be able to see what the Morse code pattern for the identifier is. meantime, we're going to pick up Hartford's altimeter setting, which is 29903, and readjust. 9er, 1, 2, 3. We are now very close to Hartford, and we'll begin switching to the next radio of 295. However, this is not how exactly we wish to have it act, so we're going to use heading hold to override what it's doing and have it intercept the way that we want. Otherwise, the autopilot will take us to the left rather than taking us on a smooth path. Another issue that can occur, especially in smaller aircraft and aircraft that aren't following GPS signals, is the cone of silence, which means over a radio station, radio signals aren't being transmitted straight up. This issue would lead to a loss of signal, and in the case of still being on nav hold, not being able to pick up a proper signal. You see the fast changing radio on the screen, showing that we were close to the cone of silence. We're going to hit nav. We're going to now correct over towards the right and begin to track the correct radio again. In this case, we're going to take a bit of a sharper intercept. We're still very close to the VOR. Let's watch the OBS as you get closer to the radio. And we'll engage the nav hold as the radio comes close to us. Alright, it seems it's not chasing the radio very well. We'll do a little bit of manual control. This is generally indicative of how the real-life systems would operate. Sometimes it needs to get very, very close in order for you to pick up the radio. However, in some simulators this might not be modeled. Take example in FSX, the system works pretty much perfectly all the time. We are very close to 29905. Sorry, to the 2905 radial. And we'll engage our navigation hold. As it appears, we successfully picked up that radial, heading towards Plainville. That's how you're going to intercept a radial in most airplanes. There may be some small differences from simulator to simulator, but those will be shown by your instructor. And if you have any questions, always feel free to ask.